Young man rapes daughter of famous surgeon, surgeon turning him into a woman to avenge him. Dr. Robert is a very famous dermatologist. He has a lab in his house where he makes crumpled skins. He had one named Vera, and I try any experience that he does. One day he had a big medical conference. He was explaining to the deep burners, and he says that burns victims, it is their right to live as normal as any second limit. Facial transplants remained widespread. And I worked 3 from them. There is no impediment that I take a dead face and put it on one of the burn sufferers. And he says too, I was able to find the way, strengthen the skin 1,000 times more than natural skin, because he combined the genes of humans and the genes of pigs. His colleague is commenting on it and saying it's an internationally forbidden crime. But Robert says we're forced to make this to saving people. Robert goes to his house and meets Marilia, the head of the servants. Marilia says you are going too far with Vera, and did not notice that you turned her into another version of your wife. Your wife, everyone knows that she is dead, and if someone sees Vera, your truth will be revealed. Robert asked Marilia to kick all the servants, that is why he will not leave anyone else at home, and Robert will be safer. The next day, Marilia will be sitting at home alone, and her son Zika knocks on the door. Marilia is afraid and decides that she will not open it, but Zika will be a criminal agent of armed robbery at a bank, and the police are running after him. So he asks his mother to hide him until the police forget what happened. Marilia decides to open it and enter it. Zika, while eating by chance, sees Vera in the monitors, and he thinks of her that she is Jerka, a wife of the deceased Robert, in a flashback to the past. And we know that Marilia remains Robert and Zika's mother, and that Robert was married to Jerka, and after a while their marriage passed. Zika came and sat with them at home, but he fell in love with his brother's wife and she fell in love with him too, and they decided to run away together, but the car exploded, and Zika came out healthy, and from that time he disappeared and lived alone. As for Jerka, her whole body was deformed and Robert tried to treat her and isolate her completely from people in a dark place, in order to do a rehabilitation for her skin. But Jerka heard the voice of her daughter Norma, and decided to go and see her from the window, and at that time a picture of her reflection appeared in a glass, and this made her shocked and decided to commit suicide and threw herself out of the window. She fell in front of her daughter Norma. This caused the girl a great shock. Because of her, she entered a psychiatric clinic. She's still for a very long time there, and when she grew up, she left, but she was still conservative on treatment and did not know how to live without others. One day Norma went to a party with her father Robert. There she met one named Vicente. Vicente is a young man from an average family who lives with his mother. They have a little atelier where they work together, and he dreams one day he will leave his small town, and will be a famous fashion designer. Norma and Vicente still to talk to each other a lot on their own, and because Norma was under the influence of psychotherapy, she started to take off her clothes in front of him. And she says, I don't like these arguments because I feel hot from her, and he is starting to get close to her and make a relationship with her. But suddenly Norma hears the sound of the song, which she was listening to when her mother committed suicide, and she started to enter into a fit of screaming loudly. Vicente was afraid anyone would hear it, and he started to mute her voice with his hand, but she was bite him a hard bite, so he slaps her so she fainted. Vicente then started running on his motorcycle, and Robert at this time was hearing his daughter's screams, and looked at her. Vicente saw him when he was running and then saw his daughter fainting. The next day Norma enters the psychiatric hospital and remains in a state of shock and panic, more than what she was in the day her mother committed suicide, and she was afraid of anyone, even her father, and this caused her severe depression, and made her commit suicide from the window like her mother. Dr. Robert lost his wife and daughter in the same way. He said that Vicente was the cause of my daughter's death, and I must avenge him, and plans to kidnap him, and he actually deceived him in by car, and then he takes him to his house and imprisoned him there. Vicente's mother went to the police to report her son's disappearance, but the police said that he might have fled outside the country, and the case is reserved for this. And in Robert's house, Vicente knows that he is Abu Norma. He also says, I will take revenge on you, turn you into a girl and rape you, as I did with my daughter. Dr. Robert seeks the help of his colleagues. He tells them that there is a boy who wants to do a sex change operation. They gather and perform the operation and it succeeds. Then Robert locks him up and do a lot of operations behind each other and change his face and body until he doesn't look like his wife, Jerica, and Vicente turns from a son to a girl named Vera, and remains imprisoned with Robert K. As a rat experiment with his operations and also a woman available for his desires to rape her at the time he wants. Vera keeps hating her new look and feeling lost, and every time she tries to commit suicide in order to get rid of this torment, she fails and Robert comes after her at the last moment and saves her, and with time she decides to preserve her soul and thinks that she is a man and his name is Vicente, and she begins to live with her new body shape. And we go back to Zika, who saw Vera, and he thought that she is Jerka's love. Marilia tried to prevent him from seeing her, but he grabbed Marilia and tied her with rope and went to Vera in the room and approached her and raped her. At this time, Dr. Robert comes back from his job and finds Marilia tied with rope. He quickly unpacks her and leaves Vera awake. Zika raped her. He takes out his gun and kills Zika. Then he goes to get rid of his body, and Marilia tells Vera the story of her children and knows that she is still Robert's mother. Then Robert comes back and works make a relationship with Vera. He allows her to go out and smell a little air with Marilia to forget what she was exposed to because of Zika. He stipulated that before she went out, she was not trying to escape. Indeed, Vera did not try to escape and came home to gain Robert's trust. Robert remained reassured and allowed her to walk around the house in comfort. And one day, Vera entered Robert's office and took his pistol. She went out and hit him with fire. Marilia heard the bullets, and when Vera came out, she killed her too, because she helped Robert kidnap Vera. Vera was able to finally run away from the house and went to her mother's atelier. When she arrived, she saw Christina, the girl that Vicente was in love with her before he turned to Vera. Vera began to tell Christina about her story, but Christina did not believe him. Vera reminded her the last words she had with Vicente from 6 years, and at this moment Christina believed that Vera was still Vicente, and she couldn't hold herself and cried. And when Vicente's mother came, she could not recognize Vera because her features were completely changed, and when I asked her, "Who are you?" she said, "I'm Vicente."